You ever notice how people panic when they hear words like 5 minutes left? Suddenly their hearts race, their hands twitch, and their minds start inventing disasters that haven't even happened yet. It's funny, give someone hours and they waste them without a second thought. Give them minutes and suddenly everything becomes dramatic, urgent, alive. But that's the thing about the last few moments before something shifts. They always feel strange, don't they? Like the air gets heavier, the room gets quieter, and your instincts start pacing back and forth like they know something you don't. You ever notice how people expect miracles to arrive with fireworks, drum rolls, and bright lights pointing at the sky? They want the universe to make a grand entrance, something loud, dramatic, unmistakable. But that's the trick, isn't it? Miracles never dress like miracles. They sneak in wearing the plainest clothes, hiding behind the smallest actions, the tiniest decisions, the moments people shrug off because they don't look important enough. That's why most folks miss their moment. They're staring at the clouds, waiting for a parade, while the real magic sits quietly right in front of them, tapping its foot, wondering how long it has to wait before someone bothers to notice. It's almost funny when you think about it, how humans overlook the very things that could change everything. They'll scroll, sigh, complain, wish, pray, hope, dream. But when life finally hands them a chance, wrapped in something small, ordinary, harmless, they hesitate. They squint at it, question it, doubt it, as if the universe has time to convince them. As if the miracle is obligated to wave its arms and scream, "Hey, I'm right here." No, it's far more mischievous than that. Miracles hide behind simple actions, because that's the only way to separate the ones who truly want change from the ones who only like the idea of change. Think about it. How many times have you almost done something, almost clicked, almost tried, almost asked, almost opened, almost took the step, and that 1 inch of hesitation, that tiny pause, that little breath of doubt, it's enough to make the moment dissolve before your eyes. That's the part people never admit. It's not that the miracle wasn't there. It's that they didn't move fast enough to meet it. Life rewards the ones who act while everyone else is busy analyzing, those who trust the nudge instead of interrogating it, those who understand that the small doorway in front of them is the real path, not the giant archway they keep fantasizing about. There's something strangely beautiful about the way these moments work. 1 second, everything looks normal, ordinary, predictable. The next second, there's this faint little spark, nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just a quiet pull, a familiar whisper telling you toe check, look open, move go now. And most people ignore it because it doesn't feel grand enough. They want a miracle that knocks politely on the door. But miracles don't knock. They slip in and wait to see who's paying attention. And here's the real joke, what people call small actions. They're not small at all. They're triggers, switches, doors disguised as doorknobs. A single tap, a single choice, a single step can send your whole life spinning in a direction you never expected. The tiniest action can untangle months of stagnation, unravel years of frustration, unlock doors you didn't even know existed. It's the small actions that carry the biggest consequences, precisely because no one respects them enough to recognize their power. Look closely at the moments that changed your life before. They never looked special at the time, did they? Meeting someone by accident, checking something you weren't planning to check, saying yes to something random, opening something you weren't sure mattered. That's the pattern. The ordinary moments are the ones that flip the entire story, because miracles prefer to hide in plain sight, where only the brave, the curious, the slightly impulsive dare to look. You're standing in one of those moments right now. That's why everything feels a little tense, a little urgent, a little strange. Miracles don't announce themselves, they wait. They wait inside the small action sitting right in front of you, the one you keep brushing off because it feels too simple, too small, too fast, too easy. But that simplicity is the disguise. That smallness is the doorway. That instant, that 5-minute window, that nudge in your chest, it's the setup, the invitation, the test. And if you've been asking, waiting, hoping for something to shift, you might want to pay very close attention to the tiny action calling your name right now. You know what's hilarious? People love to act like they're being careful, like they're being wise, like they're taking their time to make the right decision. But if you peel back the layers just a little, you see the truth trembling underneath. It's not wisdom holding them back, it's hesitation. That sticky, sneaky little thief that tiptoes into a person's mind and steals the very moments that could change everything for them. It whispers, wait a second, think a little more. What if it goes wrong? What if you're not ready? And by the time they finish arguing with a voice that doesn't even belong to them, the opportunity has already slipped out the side door, laughing softly as it goes. People talk about destiny as if it's this big, predictable, patient thing that will stand still and wait for them to make up their minds. But no, destiny moves, it pulses, it shifts, it arrives in unexpected waves and wants to see who's brave enough to ride them without overthinking. And yet most people stand frozen at the shore, analyzing the water, checking the wind, trying to calculate the perfect moment to jump. They never notice that the perfect moment has already brushed right past them. Hesitation is such a genius villain because it doesn't announce itself, it doesn't scream, it doesn't shove. It just delays, just for a second, a tiny pause, a breath too long, a moment too soft, and that's all it needs to slam the door on a breakthrough. People don't realize that life doesn't always wait for dramatic decisions. Sometimes it wants you to act before you have time to talk yourself out of it. It wants you to move when your chest tightens, when your instincts jump, when something inside you says, now, 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 even if your mind can't explain why. But no, people love their comfort. They love their little I'll do it later blankets. They wrap themselves in delay and call it maturity. They bow to fear, but label it rationality. They stand in front of wide open doors and convince themselves that maybe the door will open even wider if they just wait a little longer. They don't understand that the door is already as open as it will ever be, and that hesitation is the thing pushing it closed inch by inch. It's funny to watch, really. Someone feels the pull, the urgency, that electric prickling under the skin that tells them something is waiting, right there, within reach. But instead of moving, they start constructing imaginary scenarios of disaster. They picture everything that could go wrong, everything that might not work, everything that seems too uncertain, as if fear is a reliable guide, as if it has ever led anyone anywhere worth going. Here's the twisted part. Hesitation doesn't just steal moments, it steals identity. Every time you pause when you should move, a little piece of who you could be slips away. You shrink, you bend, you become someone who settles for what's safe instead of reaching for what's possible, and the world loves that version of you, the smaller version, the controllable version, the predictable one who won't dare to disrupt the dull, flat rhythm of the crowd. But there's always this restless spark inside the ones who were meant for more. You can see it in the way they fidget when they feel a moment calling them. You can hear it in the way their voice cracks when they talk about a dream they're too scared to chase. You can feel it in the way their eyes shift when they know, deep down, they were supposed to take the step but keep talking themselves out of it. That spark is the part of them that remembers who they are before hesitation buried them alive. And here's the punchline. Miracles aren't waiting for perfect timing. They're waiting for willingness. They show up disguised as quick decisions, sudden urges, tiny openings that expect you to leap before the mind ruins everything with doubt. They don't need you to be ready. They need you to not hesitate. You're standing in one of those razor-thin moments right now. That's why your heart feels louder, why your thoughts feel scattered, why something in your chest keeps tapping, tapping, tapping. It's not impatience, it's alignment. It's the moment that requires movement, not caution. And if you don't act while the window is open, well, hesitation will be more than happy to close it for you. You know, it's funny how people cling to the idea that they'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is the world's favorite hiding place, a tiny little word that carries so much hope and so much escape. It's like everyone is waiting for some official announcement, some magical trumpet in the sky, to tell them that now is the time to begin. But that announcement never comes, because the world doesn't send invitations. It doesn't knock politely. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It just watches you delay and delay and delay until you're so tangled in your own excuses that you start believing they're actually chains. But here's the secret, they're not. They're made of tissue. You just never try tearing them. Imagine waking up every morning with the same routine, the same habits, the same thoughts looping through your head like a scratched record. The same quiet whisper that says, not now, later. You need more time, and you listen to it again and again and again. That whisper becomes your lullaby, your comfort blanket, your prison warden disguised as a friend. People love that whisper because it removes responsibility. It gives them permission to stay still, to stay safe, to stay ordinary. But deep down, beneath the layers of routines and fears and excuses, everyone knows exactly what they should be doing. Everyone knows the step they're avoiding. Everyone knows the thing that could change everything. If only they'd begin. But beginnings scare people, don't they? Starting means uncertainty. Starting means risk. Starting means stepping out of the soft cocoon of routine and into the sharp, cold air of possibility. And possibility is terrifying, because if you try, you could fail. And if you fail, you might discover you weren't as special as you secretly hoped you were. And that's the real fear. Not failure itself, but the possibility that your dream version of yourself might collapse under the weight of reality. So instead of trying, people build stories. Beautiful stories. Elaborate stories. I'll do it when I feel ready. I'll do it when the timing is right. I'll do it when things calm down. These stories become shields. Shields made of fantasy. But there comes a moment, a strange little flicker in the mind, where your excuses start sounding ridiculous even to you. A moment where you realize you're running out of tomorrows to hide behind. A moment where the world feels like it's holding its breath, waiting to see if you'll finally stand up and do something different. That moment doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It comes quietly, subtly. A soft pulse in the chest, a tightening in the stomach, a sudden awareness that if you don't begin now, you might never begin at all. Let's be honest, everything you want is waiting on the other side of a decision you haven't made yet. Not a massive decision, not some grand heroic leap, just a small one. The decision to start, to act, to break the loop, to drop the excuses, to stop negotiating with your own fear like it's some kind of hostage situation. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more clarity. You don't need more time. What you need is a moment of courage, not a lifetime of it. Just a moment. 5 seconds of bravery that can reshape the next 5 years. But you won't ever see those 5 years unless you take those 5 seconds. And here's the twist. Once you start, everything gets easier. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because your mind stops tormenting you. The moment you take action, even the smallest action, the fear loses its grip. The uncertainty becomes fuel instead of poison. You begin to realize that progress doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from moving anyway. It comes from stepping forward even while your hands shake. It comes from daring to begin even when you're drenched in doubt. That beginning, that single step, becomes a crack in the walls you've built around yourself. And through that crack, light gets in, possibility gets in, change gets in. But none of that happens if you keep waiting for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is only this one, the one you keep ignoring, the one you keep postponing, the one that's here right now, whether you're ready or not. And once you realize that beginnings aren't handed to you, they're taken, the whole game changes. The whole world shifts under your feet, and you finally see that the only thing you ever needed was the willingness to start. People love to pretend they don't feel the clock ticking. They walk around acting like time is some endless river, flowing gently, patiently, waiting for them to finally feel brave enough to jump in. But time is not gentle. Time is not patient. Time is a silent thief, slipping pieces of your life into its pockets while you stare at your phone, while you hesitate, while you promise yourself that you'll start later. And if you listen closely, really closely, you can almost hear it laughing every time you delay, every time you waste another moment thinking instead of doing, because time knows something you keep trying to forget. It doesn't care what you want. It doesn't care what you plan. It doesn't care about your fears or your dreams. It moves forward, with or without you. And yet people keep treating time like it's negotiable, like you can bargain with it, beg it, convince it to give you another chance. You can't. Every second you hesitate is a second you'll never get back. Think about that. Never. It's gone. Melted into history, lost to the void. And what did you trade it for? A distraction, a fear, a half-formed excuse that sounded convincing in your head for 5 minutes? People don't realize how expensive their hesitation is. They don't realize they're paying for it with their life, piece by piece, moment by moment, until one day they look back and everything they wanted is still sitting in the same spot, untouched, unstarted, waiting for a version of them that never showed up. But it's fascinating, isn't it? How humans can feel the urgency boiling in their chest and still act like everything can wait. They feel the pressure, the restlessness, the whisper that says, do something, do it now, and instead of listening to it, they drown it out with noise, music, screens, food, sleep, anything to avoid the uncomfortable truth that time isn't slowing down for them. It's speeding up. It's tightening around them like a rope. And the most tragic part? Deep down, they know. They know they're running out of chances. They know they're wasting hours they'll desperately wish for later. They know they're not moving fast enough, not trying hard enough, not living boldly enough. But admitting that would mean changing. And changing feels like ripping apart a version of yourself you've grown a little too attached to. The clock doesn't wait for courage, though. It doesn't pause while you build confidence. It doesn't stop so you can fix your mindset or calm your nerves or figure out your perfect plan. It keeps ticking. Tick, tick, tick. And each tick is another reminder that life isn't something you can restart. You don't get another round, you don't get a rehearsal, you don't get a quiet warning before your opportunities evaporate. All you get is now, this moment, this breath, this small window that keeps opening and closing while you debate whether you're ready. And if you're not careful, you'll spend so long preparing that you never actually participate. But here's where things get interesting. When you truly feel time slipping away, when you stop pretending that you have forever, something shifts inside you. A tension grows, a spark lights. Suddenly waiting feels dangerous. Hesitation feels reckless. Delay feels like betrayal. You see the truth for what it is. The clock isn't your enemy. It's your wake-up call. It's the pulse that tells you to move, to act, to stop wasting chances you can't get back. And once that realization hits you, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how much you've been ignoring, how many opportunities you've let pass, how much of your potential has been sitting untouched, collecting dust like some forgotten relic in an attic. You start feeling the weight of every minute you let slip, You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the uneasy tightening in your chest every time you catch yourself stalling again. And that discomfort is good. It's necessary. It's the spark that burns away your excuses. Because once you realize the cost of hesitation, starting becomes less about bravery and more about survival. You don't act because you feel ready. You act because you can't afford not to. You act because the clock won't slow down for you. You act because you finally understand that time doesn't belong to you. You belong to it. People underestimate what a single moment can do. They wander through their days thinking big changes require big events, grand gestures, dramatic turning points written in bold letters across the sky. But the truth is far simpler and far more unsettling. Sometimes everything shifts because of one tiny decision, one impulsive choice, one small step you didn't even expect to matter. People don't like that idea because it means they can't blame the world for their stagnation anymore. It means the power was always in their hands, lying there quietly, waiting for them to stop pretending they were powerless. But power is frightening, isn't it? It means responsibility. It means accountability. It means you could move forward right now, but you don't. And admitting that is far more uncomfortable than pretending life is just too complicated. You see people clutching their fears like precious heirlooms, holding them tightly, protecting them, feeding them. They complain about the weight, but they refuse to put it down. Why? Because fear gives them an excuse to stay exactly where they are. Fear gives them a shield. Fear gives them a story that sounds noble when spoken with a trembling voice. But deep inside, they know something they never want to say out loud. They're not stuck because the world is against them. They're stuck because moving forward would mean stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty is a monster they never learned to face. Funny, isn't it? How the unknown terrifies people more than the misery they're already drowning in. So instead of taking that small step, they fantasize, they dream, they romanticize a tomorrow where everything magically changes without them lifting a finger. They convince themselves they're waiting for a sign, a burst of inspiration, a moment of clarity, as if the universe has nothing better to do than gently whisper personalized instructions into their ears. But some signs don't come gently. Some opportunities don't knock politely. Sometimes life pushes you to the edge just to see if you'll finally jump into something better. And people don't realize they're the ones holding the parachute the entire time. Isn't it interesting how humans crave change, yet run from the very actions that would create it? They talk about transformation like it's a fantasy, a distant dream, a story they want to experience but not participate in. They stand in front of doors that could lead them to better days, but they never turn the handle. Not because the door is locked, but because they've convinced themselves the darkness on the other side is worse than the darkness they've been living in. Familiar pain. That's the real trap. People cling to it because at least they understand it. At least they know its shape, its texture, its limits. The unknown has no limits, and that terrifies them. But here's the twist. Life doesn't wait for you to be fearless. It doesn't require you to be confident or clever or prepared. It just requires you to move, to take one step, just one. And people don't realize how powerful that single step can be. It's not the size of the step that changes everything, it's the direction. One shift in direction can rewrite the entire path you're walking. A small act of courage can shatter years of doubt. A simple yes can dismantle a lifetime of hesitation. Change isn't dramatic, it's subtle, quiet, almost invisible at first. But its consequences, those are loud. You'd be amazed how quickly life responds once you stop sitting in the shadows of your own excuses. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. Paths appear where there used to be walls. People show up, opportunities unfold, momentum builds, all from one simple decision to stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop treating your life like a rehearsal. You take one step, and suddenly the world shifts in your favor, as if it was waiting for you to prove you were willing to move. But most people never experience that shift because they're too busy bargaining with their fears, negotiating with their doubts, or waiting for the perfect moment, a moment that will never come. They think they need confidence to start, when in reality, starting is what creates confidence. They think they need a plan, when in reality, the first step reveals the path. They think they need certainty, when in reality, certainty is a luxury, awarded only to those who dared to move without it. A single moment, a simple choice, a tiny step. That's all it takes to break the cycle. That's all it takes to create momentum. That's all it takes to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than the life you keep settling for. And once you see that, once you feel that spark ignite, once you realize the worst part wasn't the step itself, but the years you wasted avoiding it, something inside you changes forever. People pretend they don't hear the warnings life gives them. They shrug off the uneasy feeling in their gut, the strange tension in the air, the little hints that something is shifting around them. Humans are masters at ignoring what makes them uncomfortable, especially when it demands they wake up from the sweet little dreams they've built to protect themselves. But life doesn't whisper forever. Eventually, it grows impatient. Eventually, it stops tapping politely on the window and starts pounding on the door. And that's when people finally panic, because deep down they know they've run out of time to play blind. They know something is moving, gathering, circling closer, and this time they can't pretend it's nothing. It's funny how people only take things seriously once the ground under them starts to crack. Before that, warnings feel optional. They hear a soft internal voice telling them to prepare, to change, to get their house in order, but they treat it like background noise. They assume tomorrow will look exactly like today, that consequences, one, catch up to them, that life's storms will politely pass them by. Comfort makes fools out of people. It makes them believe they're untouchable. It makes them believe they're safe just because they're familiar with their surroundings. But safety is an illusion that evaporates the moment reality steps into the room. And reality is stepping in, slowly, unpredictably, but unmistakably. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle shift, like the air is thick with something unsaid. That tension building inside your chest, the one you pretend is nothing more than stress or fatigue. That strange clarity that flickers for a second before you shove it away, telling yourself you're overthinking. But you're not. You're sensing a change long before it becomes loud enough for the world to notice. And that's what people don't want to admit. Sometimes your intuition sees the storm before your eyes do, yet they laugh it off. They mock their own instincts. They tell themselves they're imagining things because believing the warning would force them to act. And acting is inconvenient. It disrupts the cozy rhythm of their life. It exposes the truths they've been desperately avoiding. It forces them to step out of denial and into responsibility. And people loathe responsibility more than anything, because responsibility means they can't run anymore. It means they have to face what's coming. But the warnings don't go away just because you ignore them. They get louder, stronger, sharper. Life has a way of turning gentle nudges into unavoidable echoes. Something breaks, someone leaves, something shifts, and suddenly the message becomes undeniable. Prepare yourself, change something, let go of something, step towards something, because the next chapter is coming whether you're ready or not. People think warnings are punishments, but they're not. They're invitations. They're chances to realign before things get messy. They're reminders that you can't stay in the same place forever. Life doesn't send warnings to hurt you. it sends them to save you. But humans are stubborn creatures. They wait until everything collapses before they admit they should have listened. There's a moment, right before everything unfolds, when time feels strange. It stretches, it tightens. It feels like the world is holding its breath, waiting to see whether you will step forward or stay asleep. And it's in that moment that people decide their future without even realizing it. Some wake up, they straighten themselves, they read the signs and shift their path before the wave crashes. Others, they keep scrolling, keep pretending, keep lying to themselves until the impact is too big to ignore. But you're not like them, are you? You feel the shift. You sense the tremor. You know something ahead requires you to be sharper, more aware, more prepared. And whether you admit it out loud or not, part of you knows these warnings aren't random. They're timely. They're targeted. They're meant for you. Because something is approaching that won't wait for your convenience. Something that demands attention, demands clarity, demands that you stop half listening to your own life. These warnings aren't accidents. They're signals. They're the lighting before the thunder. They're the whisper before the shout. They're the quiet before the unraveling begins. And the question is never whether the warning is real. The question is whether you choose to recognize it before it's too late. People don't realize how fast everything can change the moment they finally commit to doing something. Not thinking about it, not planning it, not whispering it to themselves in the middle of the night like a scared little confession, actually doing it. The world responds differently to movement. It reacts, it shifts, it rearranges things the moment you take a real step instead of dragging your feet. But most people never experience that shift because they never actually begin. They convince themselves they're waiting for the right mood, the right timing, the right sign, the right emotional weather, as if the universe is a polite waiter standing by, ready to serve them motivation on a silver platter. They don't understand that momentum doesn't appear out of thin air. It's created, and it's created the instant you decide to stop overthinking and start acting. What holds people back isn't lack of ability. It's fear dressed up as logic. The fear whispers, maybe tomorrow, and they nod like obedient children. The fear tells them, what if you fail? And they freeze like statues. The fear deceives them into believing their hesitation is caution, their delay is preparation, their inaction is strategy. But underneath it all, it's the same simple truth. They're scared of what comes after they take the first step, because the moment they begin, they no longer have excuses. Once you start moving, you can't hide behind fantasies or illusions anymore. You're forced to face reality as it is, not as you wished it would be. People love imagining themselves succeeding. They enjoy the daydreams, the fantasies where everything lines up perfectly, but they fear the process, because the process is messy, unpredictable, unforgiving. It reveals your weaknesses, exposes your fears, strips away your comfort. It demands something from you. And people don't like being demanded from. They like being entertained. They like being distracted. They like the illusion of progress without the discomfort of effort. But life doesn't reward daydreamers, it rewards movers. There's something fascinating about the human mind. When it knows a big shift is possible, it lights up, grows restless, becomes uneasy. It senses the pull towards something greater. But instead of leaning into it, most people try to numb it. They scroll, they run, they talk themselves into circles. They drown out the internal signal because beginning feels like stepping into unfamiliar territory, and unfamiliar territory threatens their precious sense of control.